All right, so number 5 would be the 2012 version of Total Recall. Now, the 1990 film adaptation really blew me away with its special effects and its story. It was a lot smarter than I thought it was going to be. The 2012 version, while it did have solid special effects, the story was not the same case. I mean, one of the big problems with the story is that amazing plot twist, which I'm not going to give away, in the 1990 version wasn't really hinted at all, which was awesome, and it made sense, but in the 2012 version, they kind of hint at it about maybe a third of the way through, and it did spoil it big time. It kind of ruined the plot twist, even if you have seen it. Now, I know it's a science fiction movie, but there is some really far-fetched stuff about this. I mean, what's more far-fetched? I mean, an elevator that goes from one side of the earth to the other, goes right through the core. I mean, you can't go through the core, it's too hot. Or Obama on the $50 bill. Makes this movie very dated now.
Yeah, I can see that. I did see this one, unlike Maleficent. And I agree with Tyler. It wasn't fantastic by any means. I do recall the visuals were pretty darn strong in it, so that was good. But that's all I took away from it. And also, I did see recently the old Total Recall, and I honestly don't... I mean, there are lots of movies that people say are classics, and I watch them and just go, okay, that's an opinion. I don't exactly share it, but that's fine. And this kind of falls into that ballpark for me. Like, other people can enjoy it, but for me it was just fine. It was, a movie.
Yeah, I do think that the 1990 Total Recall is definitely one of the best movies by the same director as like RoboCop and Starship Troopers and that. And he also directed Killer Instinct. I haven't seen that one yet, but Starship Troopers is my favorite movie by that director, Paul something Verhoeven, something or another. Anyway, number 4 would
Paul
be
Walker.
No. Paul 4 would be,
Paul. Now we're just dropping Pauls everywhere.
It's like rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season, duck season, duck season, duck season, fire.
Paul.
Okay, number 4 would be Elysium. Now, District 9 was one of those movies that I really regretted skipping out when it came out in theaters back in 2009. So I decided not to skip out on the next Neil Beckham movie, and I would have wished I would have given this one a pass instead. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that this movie was kind of dull. I mean, there are some impressive special effects, but it didn't really impress me as much as District 9. And also, District 9 had a political message, but it was very more subtle and kind of below the surface. But this one is so in your face. I mean, it's such a political propaganda movie. I mean, this puts Stalin-era propaganda movies to shame, in a way. I mean, it's pretty much kind of a socialist propaganda movie. We got, free healthcare, demonizing the wealthy, demonizing, Border Patrol. It's such a socialist movie that I wouldn't be surprised if there's a video of, like, Bernie Sanders getting some kind of pleasure to this every night before he goes to bed, in a way.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't, I'm not going to comment on the political stuff because I think Tyler and I disagree a little bit on that in terms of this context, but...
And we're still friends, just take note, people.
That's right. What a concept.
Yeah, people can have a different political opinion than you are, but you still can have same things in common and still be friends.
Exactly. But yeah, I do recall for this movie, it was a little underwhelming.
Definitely.
I thought going into it, I was very excited because this was the guy who did District 9. And that was, a very good film, in my opinion, and will relatively stand the test of time, I think. But this one was certainly not that. It was one that was kind of just an average Brad Pitt movie. Basically, Brad Pitt gets help.
It's Matt Damon.
It was Matt. Excuse me.
Matt Damon.
I cannot express how many times I accidentally say Brad Pitt when I mean Matt Damon and Matt Damon when I mean Brad Pitt. This will not be the last time you hear this happen. I guarantee it.
Well, speaking of Brad Pitt, I mean, there was another movie that was gonna be on this list, but be probably like a number 11 spot would be World War Z.
Yeah, that one made me catch some Z's, I tell you that.
Catch some Z's.
But talking about this movie, just before we leave real quick, the one thing I do recall liking from it was the guy who was the main character in District 9, human character that is, in this one being, a bad guy and getting his head blown up, and then later having it re-healed like it's a video game or something. And that was kind of cool, but...
Yeah, he was one of the best parts about that movie, Shardlo Copley. Who, by the way, was also in Maleficent and another disappointing movie. But yeah, good actor, not so good role sometimes. But he did Hardcore Henry, so that was decent.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just want to let you know this, but when I was editing this, I realized I forgot to put my number 3 spot, but Steven went away, he went home and that. So I just want to let you know that if you're wondering why he's in here to make a commentary about it. So anyway, my number 3 pick would be Iron Man 3. Now, this is probably the most disappointing movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because it didn't deserve to make over $1 billion, okay? The only reason why it made that much money because it was tailgating on the success of the Avengers from last year. Well, not the last year, but the year before, which that movie was much better than this one. Now, this movie suffers from barely any Iron Man in it. It had a ton of plot holes, and it had one of the worst plot twists of all time. I'm not going to give it away, but it is terrible. It involves the Mandarin character, and it's a pure insult to the source material, who the Mandarin character really is, and that. And I'm kind of surprised that Marvel, of all people, really did mishandle its source material compared to any other studio that has it. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on it, and I'm just going to go on to the next one. Number 2 would be Clash of the Titans, the 2012 and 2010 one. Now, this one was that I really enjoyed the 1980s version, and I heard they were going to redo this one, so I was really interested in this one, and it was a huge letdown. I mean, Sam Worthington played a very unlikable Perseus, and it didn't help that his acting was very bad. He even admitted in an interview that, yeah, my acting was definitely not up to snuff. And there was, way too much shaky cam, more than a Paul Greengrass movie. And it really did butcher up all of the characters and the story from the 1980 version, which is much better.
Agreed. I think the visuals in this obviously were...
Not bad.
Yeah, I would go as far as to say good.
The Kraken was barely even in it.
Yeah, that's
true.
He
wasn't not much in the 1980 version, but he did a lot more. You saw him in the beginning doing some cool stuff.
Not many jokes to be cracking about him. Yuck. And it was interesting to see them incorporate little... nods to the original one, like the metal owl. I keep forgetting his name.
Yeah, I heard that Sam Worthington said that he really hated that owl was a cameo. He said, "You're gonna ruin my career if you have this damn owl. You're actually gonna ruin your career by being in this movie. What are you talking about?"
Yeah, that was just one of bad decisions.
And it's really a necessary sequel, which was equally as bad.
Yeah. I don't think I've even actually seen that one yet.
It's kind of a copy and paste sequel where, basically the same beats from the first movie happen again.
I bet.
Also, they both have a part where Perseus rides on a flying creature to defeat a giant monster at the end that's barely in the movie that they hype up. Alright, so and the number 1 most disappointing movie I've seen in theaters would be The Day the Earth Stood Still. Now, to be honest, when I was a kid, I thought the 1950s version was boring. I didn't like it because I thought it was boring. And being an adult, rewatching it, I enjoyed it a lot more. So when I heard that they were going to make a 2008 version, I thought, okay, maybe it'll have better action. Ironically, the 2008 version is more boring than the 1950s version. How about that?
Yeah, how about that? I did see this one, and there was Keanu being Keanu in it. I remember.
He was one of the better parts about that movie because he's a very stiff actor, and he's playing an alien who's very emotionally dull. So that was fine, and Jennifer Connelly was in it too. She was a talent that was, wasted. And also John Hamm was wasted in this one, from Mad Men. This came out, late 2000s when Mad Men started. Watching this later, I'm like, great, that dragged poor John Hamm into this. And on top of that, Jaden Smith playing the most annoying kid in a science fiction movie ever. I mean, he was more annoying than Dakota Fanning's character in the War of the Worlds movie.
Jaden Smith really, I want to like him, but...
You can't.
Actually, no, I don't. But everything I've seen from him so far just tells me, just go home. Let your dad do this and do something on your own, or don't, and sit on your family's wealth and, die a stoner or something. And it sounds bogus, but that's going to be my brutal honesty.
After Earth.
Yeah.
My same exact thoughts on Willow Smith. I whip my hair back and forth. I whip my hair back and forth.
How about we just toss you out the window? That'd be easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also kind of find it funny that The Day the Earth Stood Still is a dramatic title, but it also kind of sounds like it could be still from, it's so boring, right? It's a title with the
thing that bothered
me.
Yeah, I mean, the big problem that bothered me about this movie was that in the 1950s version it was about, okay, you gotta be more responsible about nuclear weapons and that. And it's still relevant today. Nuclear missiles are still a thing, even though we don't really talk about them that much. However, in this one, it kind of copies the whole trend of a lot of movies in the 2000s, talking about global warming. And that, have you noticed that movies that show global warming as a plot point are not very good? I mean, think about it. You have Ice Age: The Meltdown, you have Birdemic, The Day the Earth Stood Still, and we can't forget the classic Sharknado.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel those are at least the crap end of the iceberg, LOLOL. But,
The Jesse Eisenberg. Bad joke right there. Just made that up.
Clap along, guys. Don't leave a boy hanging.
Yeah, just fake clap like at Amy Schumer skit. Yeah, your company's probably going to flag us for this.
Copyright, even though she stole jokes from others.
Yeah, how come when Carlos Mencia steals jokes, he gets fired, but when she does it, it's like, oh, well, she's a feminist and she's a woman, so we don't want to do that because it'll look bad.
It's a joke, man. It's about fish sticks. Don't you get it, man?
Yeah. So anyway, that's my list for the top 10 movies I regret seeing in theaters. I hope you enjoyed this. This is Tyler from Encore Reviews.
And Stephen from Stephen Lawson Studios.
And really hope you enjoyed this episode of Unscripted, and hope to make more in the future. Bye.